Hey, welcome back to KP Unpacked. My name is Jeff Echols. I'm a senior advisor at KP Reddy Co. And this is my opportunity to sit down with KP Reddy, who is the CEO and founder of KP Reddy Co., also the founder of Shadow Ventures. This is my opportunity to ask KP. Once a week, I get to do this. It's the only time I get to ask it. And basically, I get to do this while we're recording and we're live on camera, so he really can't react in any other way. I'm like, KP, what were you thinking? What were you thinking when you posted that on LinkedIn? So as I mentioned, I'm joined today by KP Reddy. KP, hi, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really well. The post that we're going to talk about today it's as always, it's a good post. It's an interesting post. We were talking before we went live. I just spent the last hour recording with Frank Lazaro on our team about unpacking AI. And this is, for me, feels like a little bit of a continuation of that conversation. But as we were saying, this post got a lot of responses, and I think it's going to become obvious why. I think it's it's short, but I think it's a really
I
important
also got a
post.
lot of messages, right? There are a lot of people like wanting to spar with me, which,
Okay.
I never shy away from a good fight.
Okay. Well, so what I wasn't prepared to announce, but what we are planning is we have rented a ring in downtown San Francisco for actual cage matches with
I
KP.
did train on my sabbatical. I trained MMA for almost like a year
Okay. Well,
until
that's
they basically
going to be
told
good.
me I was too old. Basically, they're like, "You're 42 years old. What should take 2 hours to recover is taking you 2 weeks. You
Yeah,
need to stop."
exactly. Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, and by the way, you take hits really well." I think was that a compliment? Like, you get
No,
hit pretty. You're really good at getting hit.
that was not a compliment, just so you know, just to clear that up for you. But so keep your eyes out for KP in the cage coming to San Francisco. If you're not following KP on LinkedIn, you should be. You probably can't connect with him. He's usually maxed out on his LinkedIn connections, but you can follow him. He posts several times a day, and all those posts come from conversations that he's having, things he's observing as he does advisory work, as he's on the speaking tour, all around the built environment, all around the AEC world, the clients that we work with that are shaping the built environment. And all of his posts are insightful, they're pot stirring, they're things that you should be paying attention to. So follow KP on LinkedIn. Just look up KP, the letter K, the letter P, and then Reddy, Reddy. You'll find him, you hit the follow button, and you too will be able to see the posts that we talk about, that we unpack here on KP Unpacked. So as we record this, let me check the calendar. You must have posted this on about the 11th of March, 2025. So if you're listening to this in 2028, go back a few years, go to March 11th, and you'll find this post.
Hopefully, LinkedIn will still be around. Like,
I don't think LinkedIn will die. it's like the cockroach of.
it'd be a shame for me.
It would be.
The
What do you get?
only friends I have are on LinkedIn.
Well, no, you're getting a lot of inside baseball here today, folks. KP's fighting in caves. Um, he only has friends on LinkedIn, and I don't know what else. A lot of insights you weren't expecting. All right, this post goes something like this. In the world of AEC AI disruption, it's the people that are in denial that won't see it coming. Things move slow until they move fast. Being dismissive about, quote, AI isn't ready, or hallucinations, or who will stamp the drawings, or my innovation team is doing AI, are all leading indicators that you are focused on the wrong things. Yeah, this one, I had a conversation from outside of this industry that would fit. I actually thought about sending this post to somebody. A lot of that's not relevant to them because they're way outside of AEC, but these are the types of things that we hear a lot. I would say it felt to me, as I was having that conversation earlier this week, thinking to what we do see and hear all the time, it's like, I thought most of these conversations were like so 2022, but they're still happening. It's 2025. They're still happening. So it's not hard for me and probably all of our listeners to guess, but where did this come from? What was the inspiration for writing these few sentences here?
Well, one, I think, I deal with all these CEOs, right? And they say like, "Oh,
Mhm.
we need to disrupt ourselves
Yeah,
before we get disrupted."
pretty
Uh,
common phrase.
that's never worked. It's never worked,
No,
right? It's never
they
worked.
like to see it though.
It's nice to say.
Yeah.
And I think it's this dismissive attitude, like AI isn't ready. So
Mhm.
you just got to put it. It's like early days of the internet when we had 14.4 dial-up modems and things were
Yeah.
very slow, right? We might have said like, "Oh, the web is so slow. This will never go anywhere," right? And what I'm saying is like, yes, there are one. Most of what people are using is what I consider consumer grade AI,
Oh,
LLM,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? The stuff I play with is definitely not that,
It's
right?
different. Yep.
It's very different. So I think I'm like maybe a couple degrees ahead of people just because
Mhm.
of the things that I get exposed to. So I have a little bit of a bias there. But I think if you're just dismissive of like, oh, it hallucinates, it'll never go anywhere. Like you were gonna get so blindsided,
Mhm.
it's not gonna even be funny. And if you're really saying, I'm going to like, um, as a CEO of a firm, my team is working on it and you're not checking in with them every day. Like we're having a conversation how like social media trends change every day and all that.
Yeah. Mhm.
AI things are happening every hour. And if you're a CEO and you're doing your check-ins with your innovation team on AI once a month, once a quarter, you should be fired. Like
Yeah.
just outright. If I was on your board, I'd fire you. That is
Mhm.
like a daily stand up. Hey, I want to know. I want to know every day what's changed, what's happening, what are we trying, what are we doing, what's the progress, what's working, what's not working. But if you start off with like, oh, it's not working, and I'm just going to put it over here for a minute and come
Yeah.
back to it in a year, that's way too late. And I think it's this idea that, oh, I don't want to be an early adopter. I don't like if you're not an
Mhm.
early adopter of AI, there is no adoption. There's no like we talk about early adopters and laggards and all that, and
Right.
like that valley of death, the chasm. That chasm is very wide. You're
Right.
either an early adopter or you're dead. There's
Yeah.
no phases in between.
Yeah. It seems to me, that the example of, oh, it hallucinates, we're not going to use it. That one resonated with me. The image that popped into my head was because again, these are tools, right?
Mhm.
These are tools. We need to learn the right tool for the job, how to use the tool, et cetera. And that what you just said about it hallucinates, we're not going to use it. Immediately I went to the hammer and nail, right? Because
Mhm.
we talk about that, right? Looking how's it go? Every hammer is looking for a nail.
Mhm.
Um, or when you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
The idea that, oh, the hammer bends nails. For those of you that
Mhm.
have never worked on a framing crew,
Mhm.
yes, hammers absolutely bend nails if you're not using them properly,
Right.
right? Just because the hammer bends the nail doesn't mean we don't use the hammer. It means that we learn how to use the hammer better.
Mhm.
And then,
Yeah.
there are outliers of course there always are. Maybe we hit something, maybe whatever. But yeah, we have to learn, we have to understand the problem statement. We have to
Mhm.
understand the problem to find the right tool, learn how to use the tool,
Yeah.
apply it.
And I think, I have this, of course, I invest in startups. I think
Mhm.
we're closing on like 3 deals this month. We're very busy on the investing side and continuing to, our investment side's growing. Like, I mean, honestly, like my world right now, it's like I'm
Yep.
doing 80 things just trying to keep up. So everything seems to be every cylinder's hitting right now, but so it's very busy. But what I'll tell you is I had this saying with startups, right? I'm not interested in SaaS companies that have an AI feature. I'm
Mhm.
interested in AI first companies that have SaaS as a feature,
Right.
right? And I think if you take that and put that on AEC firms, I'm not interested in, if I'm an owner, I'm not interested in talking to architecture firms that have AI as a feature. I'm looking
Interesting.
for AI firms that have architecture as a feature. That's
Okay.
where we're going, right? So that's the
Mhm.
shift. And it's almost impossible to make that shift. Just like the startups I'm dealing with, right? They're like, yeah, we added this AI feature. By the way, why does everybody call their AI chatbot a female name? I don't know.
I saw a comedian doing a bit on this
Oh,
recently,
really?
but I can't repeat it, so
Yeah.
I'm
But
gonna
I
leave
would
it right
say
there.
it's kind of funny, right? Like, okay, interesting. Um, but I think, oh, we added a chat bot to our construction management software.
Mhm.
I'm like, no one cares. Or, hey, I can use a chat bot. There's a startup out there like, oh, you can use a chat bot to talk to your contracts.
Mhm.
Well, I have a lot of friends in the industry. Zero of them woke up this morning and said, I wonder if I can talk to my contracts. Zero people did that this morning.
Right.
But it's all this weird feature stuff that people are doing. That's just a waste of time, right? And these
Yeah.
companies are getting funded, and everybody will lose all their money, and that's just how it is, right? In fact, I was playing with Mistral AI. They had their new OCR image recognition stuff. It like will demolish about half of the startups that have been funded in the last year.
Wow.
The startups like, oh, you can like read contracts using our AI, like done. Mistral does it for free. Like,
Okay.
try to convince a contractor pay for something that they could get for free, right? So I
Right.
think this transition from I'm going to be architecture using AI as a feature to I'm AI using architecture as architecture is my feature.
Mhm.
That's not a transition. That is a separate company.
Right. Right.
And to
Which
give you a little bit more
raises
inside baseball, all these CEOs have come to me and said, KP, can you go start our alt company that competes with our core company?
yeah. Don't you think the ultimate, or the fundamental problem, right? We're gonna be in an architecture firm that adds on the AI feature. We've seen that before, right? We're going to
Mhm.
be an architecture firm that adds on AutoCAD, that adds on CAD
Yeah.
to keep it, non-denominational, I guess. We're going to be an architecture firm that adds on BIM.
Mhm.
The That type of approach has always been about what we're doing in house. It's always been about our efficiency, things like that, rather than our value proposition, rather than how we're creating value for our owners.
Mhm.
So it becomes this add-on that nobody cares about, especially on the client side, versus if we did actually have an add-on that we fully integrated, and understanding and not disagreeing with what you're saying. It's very, very hard,
Yeah.
right, to take a legacy 30-year, 100-year, 10-year, whatever firm and say, well, all of a sudden, we're going to completely switch gears and become this thing that we weren't previously. That's a very steep climb. But I think that's where it starts, is
Yeah.
the add-on has always been about us on the firm side,
Mhm.
rather than about creating value for our owner
Yeah. I
or
think
our client.
so. You always mention on this pod that, like, follow KP
Mhm.
on LinkedIn. I think also follow our company page, because what I'll tell you is I post on my personal stuff. I would say it's engagement, it's quippy. Not a lot of actionable items on my LinkedIn posts, right? What I do on our company page is I post things that are a little bit more actionable. So obviously, Jeff, you can tell people where to find that. But I published this thing on our company page. It's very relevant to this conversation. And I called it the DTD innovation journey, which is digitization, transformation, disruption. So it's like yesterday. And I said, digitization, paper to computer files, Excel, CAD, workflows are the same, business model is the same, the client experience is the same, right? I don't care if you're drawing on Vellum or using AutoCAD. Customer doesn't care, right? Then I said, from there, you're going to go to transformation. Transformation is computer files to applications. So now we're going to CRM, BIM, other things. So like an application layer versus a file layer. Workflows vary. Business model is the same. Client experience is enhanced, right? With BIM, I can show you a 3D model, blah, blah, blah. It's enhanced. It's not different, right? It's just a little bit better.
Right.
With disruption, you go from applications to starting a new company, right? You have to start a new company, do-over, right?
Yeah.
And for the new co, it's kind of like Netflix, Amazon. I mean, could Barnes of Noble sold books online and become Amazon? No. Too busy managing their core business. Same thing Netflix. Could Blockbuster really become Netflix? The answer is no. The answer is no. Like, we can say, oh, like they missed the boat. Yeah, I mean, they could have invested in Netflix when they were a $15 million valuation. That's a big miss, but that's a capital allocation miss. It's not a business model miss, right? And so for disruption, it's the workflows are different. The business model is different. The client experience is different because it's a different company.
Right.
And so I say the fallacy in AEC is we can disrupt ourselves before someone else does. My answer is that is not true. You can either be part of or start a new company or not, right?
Right.
So could a Blockbuster have started a new company that did streaming and allocate money? Yes, they could have and they should have. If you're a structural engineering firm, if you think you're going to disrupt your own business, it's probably wrong. You probably need to start a different company.
Go head to head.
And go head to head, right? Go head to head. That's what it is.
Yep.
If you want to disrupt yourself, set up a new company, different metrics, different strategy, different everything. And most of all, different client experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like everyone's missing the boat.
Okay.
So,
hot take. Is anybody going to do it?
What's that?
Is anybody going to do it?
I'm getting calls. A lot of people are saying here's what I'll tell you. Nobody disagrees with me in private session. 0% of the ENR 1,000 CEOs, I don't talk to all 1,000, whatever the sampling size is in there. 0% of them disagree with me. 100% of them do agree that they can't do it with their own teams and they can't do it in their own business. So they're kind of, and they're not sure if they can or want to. It's kind of a personal choice. If I'm 2 years from retirement, I'm like, KP, like,
yeah.
I'm going to sell the private equity. I'm going to get the hell out of here. That's one option. Get the hell out of here is an option. But I'm having several of them coming to me like, hey, can we joint venture and start an AI first company with you? And I'm like, I'm listening. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to anybody. You know that.
All right. Reach out to KP Reddy. You got to follow him first on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
KP Reddy.
Yeah. And start following the company page. Because I am going to start. It's almost like my personal stuff. It's like I said, it's fun. It's interesting. It's to get you thinking. I don't give people a lot of answers, though. I just give them more questions.
Yeah.
Company page, I'm trying to add more answers. Like here's how to like actually go do something.
Right. Yeah. There is that. All right. That's the purpose of this particular version of the podcast, right? Is us stirring the pot, looking at it from 30,000 foot view, et cetera. Frank and I were talking about this as we were recording earlier, the AI Unpacked version. It gets more, right? It gets actionable. We have takeaways at the end of or action items at the end of each of those episodes. So go over to the KP Reddy Co. LinkedIn page, and I'm not going to try to tell you what the URL to that is. Check the show notes. The producer will drop links to the things that we talk about in the show notes, and you can just go down there and click it. But there, on the KP Ready Co. company page, you will find a different sort of content produced by KP and others others on the team. You'll find some of the research we're doing and some of the other things that we're doing, but there's definitely a different flavor over there on the company page.
Yeah, and I think Frank does a good job. Some of the stuff that I post short form, he's like, hey, that's a great idea. Let me flush it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns it into a downloadable white paper that you can actually, he just did one on monetizing your innovation journey, which was basically came out of some of the workshops that I do. And it's like, he took like my 10 bullet points and turned it into an actual actionable document toolkit. So definitely.
Yeah. Now that URL will also be, or the URL to the page on our website where you can find those downloadable white papers. You find that link in the show notes as well, but that one's a little bit easier. Go to kpready.co/research. That's only a couple of words long. The LinkedIn URL is a different animal. So, but both of those links will be in the show notes below. So go down there, click through.
You know what's interesting, Jeff? I got a call from a very large investor the other day that's been tracking, it's a friend and tracking. He was like, if people only paid attention, actually paid attention to what you post and what you say, they would realize that you're kind of giving them the playbook. Like there will be no surprise. In a few years, when some things happen, you've literally kind of said, here's what's going to happen. And it's not just like you're predicting it, you're doing it. You're funding the companies, you're doing the things. Like you're telling everybody exactly what you're going to do. And they just kind of don't pay attention.
Well, that's the thing with leadership.
Because this investor called me up. He's like, hey, do you want to go start a new company doing X, Y, and Z? I saw your post. How much money do you want? Go build a team. Put some of your money, whatever, right? And it's like, how did you know that that's what I was saying? Oh, dude, you're so transparent. If only people would get it out of their own way. My son actually told me, Dad, you should stop. You should take a break from LinkedIn. You're sharing too much.
That's an interesting insight. Is that Devin?
Yeah, Devin's like, Dad, you can't. You're sharing your secrets in open. They can't be secrets when you share them in open. I'm like, oh. People have to be paying attention.
I'll ask Devin about that. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. So you should be following both KP Ready on LinkedIn and KP Ready Co. on LinkedIn, the company page. And again, you can find the links to those in the show notes below. What we've been doing is we've been unpacking, as is the whole format for this show, KP Unpacked. We've been unpacking KP's LinkedIn post from March 11th, 2025. And it goes something like this. In the world of AEC AI disruption, it's the people that are in denial that won't see it coming. Things move slow until they move fast. Being dismissive about AI isn't ready, or hallucinations, or who will stamp the drawings, or my innovation team is doing AI, all are leading indicators that you are focused on the wrong things. This one got a lot of engagement, as many do, but this one is one of the ones that spikes, and that we look for those, right? We talk about the ones that people care about, the ones that we think have the most impact, and this is certainly one of those. So, KP, thank you for joining me today to unpack this post. Now that you and I have recorded, and I was just recording with Frank, I feel like I have, I know I have spent the last 2 hours talking about AI in different ways and on different levels. So it's been a good couple of hours. So thank you for this.
All right. Good to see you.
And everybody else that's out there listening, thank you for joining us. We'll be back again next week with another edition of KP Unpacked. What will it be this week? If you go to LinkedIn, here, we'll make you a deal. If you go to LinkedIn and follow KP Ready and you see one of his posts that you think that we should unpack here on KP Unpacked, drop that in the comments. Give it a thumbs up or whatever reaction you want, and put in the comments, please do an unpacked. and we'll watch for those comments, and maybe we will choose the one that you asked for. If you do
and maybe
that,
we'll have them on.
maybe we will. Yeah,
We'll
that's
make
one
you
of
a
the
star.
things.
We'll make you a star.
We'll bring you here. We'll
All
bring you
three of
right
our
here.
all three of our listeners you'll be exposed to all three of our listeners.
Well, wait a minute.
My mom loves the show. She just loves it.
So if we bring on the person that votes, and we bring on your mom, there's no listeners left.
It's like my mom calls, like, "Hey, I haven't heard from you." Well, I'm like, "You listen to my pod, Mom. Like, why do we actually have to talk?"
All right, next week we are bringing KP's mom on to KP Unpacked.
No, that's not a good idea. That's fine as long as I'm not there.
Okay. Well, you're in trouble now.
By the way, my mom thinks I'm still a civil engineer.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe we should have the producer cut this part out. We don't want to get you in trouble. You've been lying to your mother.
All right.
All right. Thanks, KP. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will be back next week with another episode of KP Unpacked. Thanks, everybody.